What up, though? This is Knockouts and Three Counts. But before we bring you another episode of Podcast Gold, let me tell you about the homies over at Michigan's Finest. Do you ever find yourself trying to get yourself together and thinking, man, this is going to be a great night, but I'm looking for that little extra something? Well, check out our friends at Michigan Finest. If you are into medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, concentrates, vapes, anything of that sort, Michigan's Finest has got you covered. And as you can see here, it's all easily done by their website. It's all curbside, and you'll be in and out in 2 minutes. And they're family owned and operated, so customer service is their number one goal. And now, since they are rocking with Knockouts and Three Counts, use the code KO3MF. Yes, that's KO3MF. You get 10% off your entire order, but that does exclude featured items and items that are already on sale. But if you use that code, you're getting 10% off your items, and I promise you, either if you're looking for that big knockout or you're ready to hit the sheets for that 3 count, Michigan's Finest will get you together. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you, and I promise you, you're going to be having a great night. Peace.
This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
We got a new world champion.
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby. It's the real deal, baby.
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up? No, this is another Tuesday. This is Knockouts and 3 Counts, and I haven't gone postal yet. Maybe that's just because I got vacation coming soon, but we'll see how that goes. This is another Tuesday, man, and did we have a full weekend of action? So, especially since we've got so much to talk about in the boxing end of things, I figured what better time than now to bring back our homie AB of AB Boxing News. How you doing, brother, man? A long time no see. How the fuck you feeling?
Hey, what's going on, brothers? Everything good, man. You know, like you said, long week of boxing, and not just boxing, man, just sports in general, man. And it's been a hell of a while, man. You know, life has been different as of late, but man, you know, it's always good to see you and see you grow. Both of you guys actually growing and doing big things.
Hey, appreciate that, sir. Trying to get some stuff popping. Speaking of which, if you're going to be at Astronomicon, you know, keep an eye out. You never know what you might see. And if you guys are fans of the pro wrestling thing, you know, Trish Stratus, who just came back on Raw, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is going to be there. You got Devon Dudley is going to be there. Sabu, Rhino. You've got a whole list of people going to be there at Astronomicon, not to talk about Jay and Silent Bob and all kinds of other things. So if you're going to be there, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss what we come back with. But dude, we talked about it already. There's been a lot of shit in the boxing world. I want to know from you first, how are you feeling with this Jake Paul, Tommy Fury fight? Do you think that means it's going to be the end of the experiment here?
I mean, no, because at the end of the day, have an answer. You have Jake Paul, you know.
I didn't ask Siri, but Siri wanted to chime in.
She had a better response than me, right? Right? Nah, man. I mean, to be honest, bro, you know, I gotta give credit where credit's due, you know. Jake has dedicated himself to the sport, you know, whatever my personal opinion is about him and you know what you guys think about him. I think that, you know, we have to be subjective and you know, he's been dedicated, he's been doing his thing. He's taking serious. He's been taking this crap serious, you know.
For sure.
You know, for the amount of time that he had to learn the sport, and then step in the ring, not even without amateur fights, dude. It speaks a lot of volume. Now, are most of his fights staged? Is it not? Like, is he really doing it? And his opposition, you know, worth those credentials where he is now?
Well. Froze.
No, they were not.
Apparently, no, they were not, according to AB.
Yeah,
but
so,
there you go. Oh, there you go. You back? All right, cool.
My bad, brother. So I was saying, like, it's tough now because now this was actually the first fight where you actually fight somebody, a real boxer, not just a real boxer, like a brother of a Fury. You know how the Furies are, man. They are some warriors, man. They call themselves gypsies for a reason, and you know, it was a learning lesson. I think he learned that, you know, you don't mess around with the sport with a real boxer. I'm actually glad he didn't get hurt because I thought he was going to really get hurt. But then again, it's like, do I give Fury credit for fighting someone that's a YouTube boxer? You know, it's like a lot of question marks still in my head, you know?
Okay,
It's
so
such a weird it is such a weird thing, and I really honestly had such a curiosity how a boxing analyst, somebody who covers the sport, how their perception of the fight was, because going into it I was more intrigued in the grudge match than I guess I was the match itself, if you get what I'm saying. And then to see kind of the way it played out, I think personally I'm done contributing to the experiment unless they make some type of interesting matchup that garners my attention to that level. I think right now where I'm at, I'm kind of I've seen it, you know. But to your point, I think that's because we've seen him step up against somebody. I didn't think Tommy Fury was of that level, but he showed himself to be of that level over this past weekend. And now that I've seen that, I feel like I'd be more interested in give him a couple months to train in that whole PFL thing that he was talking about and see how that goes than to continue down this boxing route where
okay, but that just brought up a point I wanted to talk about, Corey, and I only say that because you bring up the PFL thing. Here's the thing.
I just feel like he's reached a plateau in the boxing end.
I agree, but here's the thing, though, and this is a question that's a good one for you too, AB. I mean, here's the thing. My question is, did him losing like that against Tommy Fury, does that hurt him now with that contract with PFL? Because, yeah, he signed with them, but I feel like him losing, and now that he's got that first loss, it kind of takes the bloom off the rose. You know what I mean? It's going to take some of that steam off there. And my question is, with that being said, do you think that, you know, kind of is going to take away some of the interest of people still wanting to see him fight in MMA like that? Because all that talk that they had before the fight about a fight against a guy like, let's just say, Nate Diaz, I don't think that that's got the same cachet to it now as it did then, unless they fight MMA.
I mean,
it definitely. Go ahead.
My bad, brother. I mean, like, for me, honestly, bro, I don't hurt anything, because at the end of the day, all of us in this video chat, we want to see Jake Paul get knocked out on a personal level. You feel me? The outcome that just happened with Fury, yeah, he lost a fight, but he kind of looked good because he went the distance with a real boxer. Actually, what I'm talking about is that jab he landed on Fury, and he got him out in the last round, I think, right? So does it hurt him? No. Look at
Paul says he's fighting Nate after the rematch, huh?
Yeah. So imagine that. He's doing PFL, which is MMA, a whole different sport, a whole different atmosphere. And you see a lot of fighters have 8 losses, 9 losses, 10 losses, and they still.
He hasn't been put out yet. I don't think Money Train derails till he's out cold. What up, though, J-Bone? I'm pissed that you're out there in Florida and I'm over here in Michigan, but fuck.
It doesn't, you know what I mean? It's not going to affect it until he gets knocked out, you know? The same thing as Floyd Mayweather. They're doing exhibitions, and people are still going to watch it until somebody finally knocks him out, and then we'll just
hang on, though. So I got to ask you about that. What do you think about that with the Floyd Mayweather fight? I mean, you can't tell me you haven't been hearing all the news with how bad that shit sold at the O2 and them having to push the fight back 30 minutes because they're trying to sell more tickets and cutting the prices and all that stuff. Do you think, let me ask you this, do you think with maybe a little bit of the steam being taken off of the Jake Paul train, do you think that will maybe stop us from seeing a lot more of these exhibition type fights, like Floyd going and fighting all these ex-Bellator guy and then went and fought the guy over in Risen and all this shit? Because, you know, like I said, with that one not selling very well this time over there in England and them not selling tickets well, I wonder if maybe that starts to change like the appetite for, you know, that kind of a thing.
Mason and Roy Jones, you know, they're past their prime. It was an exhibition, but people were intrigued. I mean, I was more intrigued to see Mike Tyson now than, you know, ending his peak. You know, I think it just depends on the opposition, like the correct exhibition. You know, if you tell me, like, I'm gonna give you a prime example. Like, if you tell me Roman Reigns versus Floyd Mayweather, you're gonna tell me you're not gonna watch that exhibition? That's what I'm saying. It just depends on the star power. You know, it can't be just Mayweather against, like, to be honest, I didn't even know the opponent. Like, I mean, like, I had to search him up and kind of learn more about who this person was. But like, like I feel like people need to like automatically know, oh, it's Mayweather versus
Yeah.
Roman Reigns. I'm watching that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
position.
Go ahead,
That's
Corey.
exactly what I was getting. My opinion's exactly that. If that type of match, you can't now with how many spectacle matches we've seen with all these guys and stuff. I think it has lost of some of the allure on it, and you really do need at least if it's not two A sides, essentially, you need a very solid B side, somebody that's, to your point, at least known to the general public, somebody that catches eyes just based on name power alone.
Yeah, quick fact, right? You mentioned about the seats and it being empty. Boxing is just I'm gonna say it right now. Like I don't care. I have no filters. Like boxing is just a dirty business. Like for real. Like it's like a used condom. Like that all these promoters, you know what they do? They will release them tickets to the public. They'll buy all the front rows, and they'll just try to flip it to catch most of us. You feel me? Like how more dirty could it be? You feel me? Like I got so fed up with that, bro. Like it is ridiculous. Like you're cheating these fans already from their hard-earned money, and then for you to do that and abuse them even more, like it was gonna be a certain point where you was gonna get away with it, and now it's like I feel like they started seeing it. Oh, I'm not buying this. Like you fighting who? Like no, I'm not doing that. So I don't know how wrestling works. I hope it's not like that. I really hope it's not like that. But
Look, man, at the very least, look, since scalpings happened, tickets in general have been a lot different. So if that's the kind of stuff that's going down in boxing, it's very, very possible that could definitely be going down in the world of wrestling as well. Jerry, to answer your question, Jake said if he ever loses, he'll retire. But dude, he also said after the fight that he's got a rematch clause in his contract for the fight with Tommy Fury. So at the very least, I think him and Tommy Fury are going to run it back at least once. As far as boxing and the Floyd thing and all that stuff, what do you think is next for him? Do you think he fights Tommy Fury again? Do you think he kind of tries to take some time off and go fuck with the PFL thing? What do you think happens from here with that?
Floyd's gonna keep doing these exhibitions. You got all these investors, whoever's paying them, they're paying them handsomely good money. Like the only way you see Floyd Mayweather stop doing this if all these investors or rich individuals stop paying them for all these, non like fights that don't make sense. Like I just don't understand.
Speaking of the Paul brothers, bro, it's
if you were trying to wash your hands of some money, you might understand more why these fights go on. It seems like, at least, that's what it seems like from an outsider's perspective. If you were trying to, get some money out in some ways real quick,
look, man, I'm not hating on Floyd at all for taking those fights. It's going to be interesting to see how Jake plays it. Well, what do you think we see from Jake Paul next, bro? Do you think he's going to fight Tommy again, or do you think, he kind of chills out for a bit? How do you see it playing out?
No, I think he's gonna rematch Tommy. He's gonna be a bigger fight. The tension's already there, even though they were cool after the fight, but that fight just makes sense. It has to happen. If he wins, cool. If he doesn't win, if he loses and he still gets a distance, does he really lose against a real boxer? Not at all. If he gets knocked out by a boxer, then he's gonna be a meme all over the internet. Eventually he's gonna get knocked the fuck out.
Well, what do you guys think about what Jerry said? Jerry brings up a good point. Here's the other thing. I didn't realize until we saw the tail of the tape. Obviously I've been paying attention to all the build up on the fight, but I didn't realize until we were watching it and saw the tail of the tape that Tommy was that much younger than him. He brings up a good point. It shows Jake can't beat a real boxer. He can only beat MMA fighters that are over 40. He went the distance with him, but that's something to be thought about. He's fighting somebody younger, and we're talking about somebody who's an actual boxer. And do you think? Go ahead.
And somebody who appeared to actually have a size advantage over him, where everybody else has had a size disadvantage over him. And it seems like Jake's been able to kind of play bully ball in there a lot with a lot of these guys, and he wasn't able to in this fight. You could see that Fury was just too. His footwork was too elusive. He was able to implement his boxing in that term. His boxing was his footwork, and that's really what made the biggest difference, in my opinion, at the at the end of the
Oh
day.
yeah,
That
you
and
can't
like
argue
you guys
that
said,
at all.
that jab was eating him up. But I mean, realistically, anybody with that type of length, if you just stick your arm out with the right footwork, I mean, he was lighting him up with that jab.
I mean,
no,
had Tommy Fury been a little bit more crispy with the shots when he hit with them counters, which that's my thing. If Tommy Fury was able to do that in this fight and he got paid that much, if there's another big payday coming after that, I think Tommy Fury only trains harder. And then what happens if he starts to catch Jake at some of those exchanges when he's making him miss? Because there were multiple times in that fight where you would see Tommy catch him on the side or, cut an angle real quick or make Jake miss because Jake couldn't keep up with the footwork. I think in a second fight, Jake may be a little better prepared for it, but I think Tommy Fury will also be
He'll have confidence on his side this time.
He
too.
said
You could
Fury
tell he
made,
was really
Fury made $4 million and Jake made 30. I mean, dude,
Yeah,
even
you
if I was getting to make $4 million, I don't give a fuck.
yeah, but you could really tell that was the one thing I felt like, and you could see it in his expressions after the fight and stuff, was that Fury, at least for the first couple rounds, was really lacking confidence in there. Going into the fight, he was really unsure whether or not he was going to be able to beat this guy.
Well, that
And
was
then
my.
he went-
That's a good point.
and then he
Because
went-
even when that
and
bet
then he
came
went
out,
out there-
he never accepted it.
Yeah, and then he went out there and he actually did what he thought he was going to be able to do. He outboxed the guy. He showed that he had superior skills and that his skills paid the bills. I mean, it was fairly simple once it came to that. But I feel like if we go into a rematch, it's going to be a whole different thing because of that aspect of it. His confidence level going into that second one, it's very reminiscent. It's very reminiscent of like this Leon Edwards Kamaru Usman pay-per-view we have coming up. I feel like it's going to be a totally different fight than what we seen the first time. I mean, granted, it was different situations a little bit. Leon was able to get the victory, but same type of thing. The confidence level is going to be such a different level for
because now you know you can beat him, and not only do you know you can beat him, I think a lot of the, I'm not going to hold you up, especially now that we're out of the fight. I think a lot of it going into it. I mean, like I was saying, when it came to Jake making that bet, saying if you win, you'll get double the money I was going to pay you, and if you lose, you get nothing. I think there was a lot of pressure on Tommy Fury from the fact that obviously his older brother's Tyson Fury, arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time. And you had Tyson was piping up and you had his pops piping up and all this stuff. And in the back of Tommy's head, I agree.
Name thing.
And that's what I'm saying.
And look at real, like, even if it wasn't the case, and even if he would have never changed his last name or anything along that lines, but forever when you would have had to introduce yourself as Tommy Fury, somebody would have cracked a joke about it. Weren't you supposed to change that last name after you lost that boxing match? Like he doesn't have to deal with that whole last name thing. That was like a low dig, and for him to be able to put that one to bed, at least I thought that was good on him.
Yeah, but you also mentioned about confidence. Look at Jake too, man. I mean, he didn't get knocked out. He probably confident too coming the next fight. I mean, it's a double sword, Like, I mean, me, if I'm fighting somebody that has more experience over me and I survived them 12 rounds, like I'm in my head, I'm like, shit, I think I could win the next one because
I agree. I'm not saying Jake's going to go away, but I feel like if Tommy was able to make it convincing in that sense, like he did in that fight, in the sense of just whose skills were better, I feel like going into the second fight, you're going to see a lot less cachet, a lot less of the Jake Paul bullshit with like in the sense of like saying okay, if you win, I'll pay you double. If you lose, I'm going to take your name. I don't think you see a lot of that shit in the second fight because I think Jake knows like, okay, this motherfucker beat me. There needs to be no bullshit, no nothing. I need to make it work. With that. So let me ask you this, that's a good question. Who would you pick, Jake or KSI? I feel like that.
Happy, bro. Like, KSI's he's fucking wild, man. That dude, his overhooks, man, and the way he throws them is so unorthodox, dude. I'll be like, fuck. But it's so dangerous too, bro, because like it's like any combat sport. Like you're learn a certain way to throw certain kicks, certain punches, right?
Correct.
And boxing is like, 1, 2. There's a certain way, the way you throw your hooks and the way he like does it, and then he overloops it, like looks so sloppy, but it's like so dangerous because it's like, how do
Coming
you
from an awkward angle because
yeah,
you
how
can't
do you
defend what you
prepare
can't
for that?
see.
Like, do I put my hands like this? Do I like?
And if you do that, then your whole body's open. So I mean,
Yeah, that's in that particular matchup. I feel like Jake is the more proven talent. I mean, but I don't know. KSI is proven.
KSI has proven he can do
he's
his thing
proven
too.
he
I
can
think
take on
that's a lot
two
more.
low-level talent guys in the same night. So I don't know.
I like that fight.
genuinely
I think
don't.
that fight has a lot more interest to me than the Tommy Fury one does. Although I feel like the Tommy
Yeah.
Fury one kind of has to happen again. But we also talked a little bit about Floyd Mayweather. You know, his brother Logan Paul has fought Floyd Mayweather, and with that being said, and speaking of Logan Paul, a couple questions. First of all, what were your thoughts on the interview during the fight where Logan gets up on the mic and it's like, "Hey, Tommy, if you can hear me, you're a bitch." Like, to me, being a fighter and around fighters and stuff like that, I didn't like that so much. I felt like that was kind of
Unnecessary.
I felt like that was really kind of unnecessary.
That
and
felt
I feel
more
like
to me. That felt more
Go
to
ahead.
me like a MVP promotions thing and not a top rank ESPN Plus type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to do that on your own, spectacle type of thing, sure. I understand this whole pay-per-view is essentially a spectacle type of deal, but the fact that it is now like what WBC or whatever was talking about
That's who sanctioned it.
having it in their rankings and shit for whoever wins and shit like that. So, I mean, like at that rank, at that point of turning the head towards legitimacy, you can't do in the middle of the round interviews where they're actively, playing it on a broad, like that. You can't do that. That shit's just no.
Yeah, even with these rankings, man. That shit, man. Sorry about my language, but that shit was pissing me the fuck off, man. Like, and I know WBC
no, me
personally,
too.
bro.
Me too.
Like, I know Mauricio Suleiman, man. Like, I wanted to call him and be like, dude, what the fuck you doing, bro? Like, I'm like, it's bro. I'm telling you, it's a dirty business, bro. I could expose them left and right. Like, that's why I get sick and tired of boxing sometimes, bro. Like.
No. Just to
WBC's
clarify
lurking.
his point. Just to clarify his point on how dirty boxing is, man. I was watching an interview with Chael on Ariel Hawani show earlier, and he was talking about boxing's the only sport in the United States that's sanctioned by, like the government had to step in to stop the corruption that was going on in boxing. So clearly there's clear examples of what you're,
Well, I mean, UFC's got their problems with betting at this point, so
yeah. I think all combat sports, but go on. What were you saying?
Yeah, man, it's just a dirty business, bro. Like, imagine, look at this, right? Sanctioning bodies, they take 3% from a fighter, man. So imagine you're the undisputed world champion. You're making $30 million from the 3% from not only WBC, WBO, WBA, IBF, and then I'm not too sure about the Lineal, the Ring magazine. I don't know how much percentage they get out of it, but imagine that's 12% they're taking from the fighter's purse. Think about that. Then
I feel like we were digging into the meat of it.
15% to your manager. It's like so many roles in boxing.
pieces out the pie.
If boxers were more educated, you don't need to pay all these people. This is why I get mad with boxers. Believe it or not, they come to me and they'd be like, dude, I want to get out of this contract. I said, dude, look at your contracts. They said they'll give you $20,000 up front for training camp. If you become a world champion, they'll extend your contract 2 more years. You win another world title, another year is added. Like, it's a dirty business, man. It's so fucked up, dude. That sometimes I get mad at these boxers. Like, why the fuck do you sign it without going to an attorney, going to a fucking lawyer? Like, I don't know, bro. Like, I just get irritated with them sometimes. Bro. I just be like, don't hit me up no more. Like, you're getting me upset.
Well, speaking of contracts, bro, there's one contract that's done really well since we're talking about the Paul brothers, okay? Logan Paul I will give credit where it's due. I don't know that I think he's got any better chance than Jake did against Tommy Fury, but in the pro wrestling ring, that motherfucker's got a lot better of a chance because I, again, will give credit where it's due. He's done well so far with what we've seen, and now it's looking like it's going to be him and Seth Rollins at WrestleMania. So with that being said, when you're comparing the two situations for Jake and Logan, do you think, I don't know, man, the more I look at this, I feel like Logan might have made better out of the two of them out of this deal, dude, because he's making a shit ton of money with WWE. Prime now is the official drink of the UFC, so he still gets to kind of have his foot in the fight game, kind of. And he's still, and at this rate, with it being WWE versus going the route Jake did, it's like we've talked about since the beginning of this. It's good until he loses. Logan, man, might be the kingpin in this one, dude, huh?
Yeah, I mean, but then again, wrestling is just so different from combat. Even though wrestling is fucking hard too, man. It's all those fucking bumps, all those
the traveling, all that shit.
So, I mean, from what I've seen from the 4 performances that I've actually watched, like it's like he got it, like you can't teach, like I don't know, it's like natural talent. Like he just got it. He's like,
they're both athletes. That's one thing you can't take away from Jake or Logan. Like, I mean, I had my preservations, but if we're talking about just straight up athleticism, both of them dudes have some. Like, I'm not saying that they're necessarily like a UFC level guy or a whatever, but they're definitely not scrubs when it comes to the athletic ability. That part I won't take away.
What's that word they say in wrestling? It's just organic heat. Like they just draw so much heat, and
he's
it's
a
like,
heat magnet.
You can't stand them, but it's like you just gravitate. I just want to watch them get beat up by like Roman Reigns or like
him and Seth Rollins going back and forth is hilarious. Seth Rollins calling him on a fucking FaceTime last night to get him to show up to Raw next week and all that shit. Hey, like I said, I got no problem with it. I got it again. I'll give credit where it's due. He made his debut at WrestleMania and all that. The guy did well. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this plays out at WrestleMania with the whole thing with him and Seth and a few other things. But before we get into WrestleMania and all that shit, tax season is here. I know all you motherfuckers got to do your taxes because you're mailing them out every day, and that's how I pay my bills. So thank you. But with that being said, get your bills together, get your taxes together. Make sure you check out the homies G3 Payroll and Tax. Make sure you tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you, and I promise you'll get you a little bit of extra money. Maybe you can get one of these overpriced WrestleMania tickets. Luckily, I already got mine, but use them, and you might be able to get you some too. With that being said, dude, like I said, we're on the road with WrestleMania here. Shout out to Jerry. We appreciate you watching. Anybody else who's new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. But, dude, I mean, you said it yourself before we hit the live button. You're very much so looking forward to what we're going to see come WrestleMania and everything that's going on with that. What are you most looking forward to, and how do you think all this shit's going to shake out, man? Because after what we saw on Raw, you had Kevin Owens come out, and you don't know if it's going to be Sammy and Kevin versus the Usos or however the fuck it could play out. And then you got the female tag team champions with Lita and Trish Stratus and all them coming back last night. So all kinds of things going in the pro wrestling world. How are you feeling headed into WrestleMania?
Nah, it's exciting. I mean, as we've seen on Monday Night Raw, man, we're starting to get a little glimpse of what matches are actually going to marinate and going to happen. I'm excited. Well, man, it's like, I don't know, man. This year of like early 2023 WWE with the storytelling, it's been very good, man. I'll give you on top of my head. I'm excited for Cody Rhodes to complete this story, this comeback story for his father. Completing this destiny that quote unquote his father won the match, but it was a DQ finish, I believe, and him trying to complete this mission, dethrone in modern era, right? The longest reigning WWE Universal Undisputed, whatever it's called, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's I'm really invested in Cody Rhodes, man. I was checking out his work in AEW. I'm invested in this Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio feud. Like
Prison Dom. How do you feel about Prison Dom? Looks like Prison Dom's listening in and got him a hold of AB real quick.
No, you know, the kid is improved, man. You know, he needed this heel turn, you know, because it was about time that he grew out of his father's shadow, in other words, you know, and it's not easy living up to those expectations of a legend like, you know, Rey Mysterio. You look at Cody, Dusty's a legend in just wrestling, even without WWE, he's just a legend in every industry. Like he's a household name, you know. So I'm invested in that one. I really hope Sami Zayn, whatever match it happens, right, him and Kevin Owens versus the Bloodline, I hope that's the main event for night one, because Sami Zayn has just done so much incredible work. He has kept that Bloodline, you know, this takeover right on WWE, on SmackDown and Raw. Like he's kept it alive, made it fresh. The whole Royal Rumble shenanigans with the ending was so beautiful. Like
that was like Shakespeare type shit.
Yeah, like I really hope they get night one main event, even though like Charlotte Rhea.
I think Charlotte Flair Rhea, like he was saying, very well could be one of the main events, because that's one 3 years in the making, dude. And I think Rhea Ripley is coming back around to be the. I think I've said it for a while. She's next up for them, and they know it. Yeah, they know she's
Kyle,
next up.
Kyle's been bigging up in her for a long time.
Yeah, but which one like taking out a personal feeling, right? Like which one do you want main event? Like besides your personal feeling, like which one deserves it? Like based on their work?
Obviously Roman's match is going to be main event.
Yeah, but like two. Like one.
I think personally, I like your idea of that tag title match, but because of the way everything's kind of been going with like not only the women's division, but the women's tag titles and all that kind of stuff, I think Charlotte Rhea needs to main event one of those. Okay. I believe that they need to main event one of them, because on the women's side of things, unarguably, that's the best storyline they're going to have. Even with bringing Lita back and Trish back and all this shit. Don't get me wrong. I like it as a fan. Now, last night was a little clunky, but I'm still looking forward to seeing what happens with WrestleMania. But if we're talking about giving the ladies a fair chance, giving them the equal spotlight that they should get, there's no bigger match that you can put on either show in the women's division than Charlotte Flair and Rhea. So if you're going to give any one women's match the spotlight, I think that would be one of them. So I think that would be a great match for night one.
Okay.
I think Roman closes out night two, because I still feel like we're going to get something. And I mean, who knows, man? I mean, they haven't said anything about The Rock, but who knows? Let's also not forget to take into effect John Cena is going to be back on Raw on Monday too.
With Theory.
So we don't know what the hell is going to happen. Shout out to Theory, past guest of the motherfucking show. You know, like I say, like you said, there's a lot of things to look forward to going into WrestleMania. And let's not forget, at the end of the day, we never know when they might try to pull some rabbit out of their ass. So things could look a lot different by the time we get to WrestleMania, or, you know, anyone who knows wrestling, the Raw after WrestleMania is the biggest WrestleMania of the year. That being said, you never know who's going to come through that door. That being said, don't know how I feel after last night about them saying it's going to be Brock and Omos.
Oh my God.
Don't know that I really want to see that one. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out. Now, Bobby Lashley and Bray Wyatt. That interests me. As long as it doesn't get super, super over the top, it's going to somewhat with it being Bray Wyatt, but I've said this for a while. I'm just glad to see Bobby Lashley doing something big, dude. Like, I'm tired. Yeah. Like, I want to see guys like him and guys like Brock, and they need to stay in the upper echelon. And we've been saying for a long time, especially since Bobby Lashley returned and winning the world title and all these things, we've all wanted to see him at that level for a while. I think it's unarguable that Bray, you know, has been one of the bigger stars since he come back. You know, they still really kind of got to establish him still. I still would like to see him and Uncle Howdy as a tag team, but I think going into WrestleMania, I'm just glad to see Bobby Lashley in a big caliber match, but I still don't know how I feel about that Brock Lesnar Omos shit.
You're getting burned out on these big man matches, huh?
It's not the
to
big
be a
men
pretty
matches. It's not the big men matches. For me, it's, again, Omos is still so new, right?
Yeah,
And we know that Brock Lesnar will sell for anybody, but at the end of the day, I feel like there's only so much that you can see in that match, right?
yeah.
Because even though Omos is like grown in leaps and bounds, I just don't see him have progressed enough that he can keep up with a Brock Lesnar. I think that's where my issue with it is. Where like on the flip side, we just talked about Bobby and Bray. You know for a fact that both those fucking dudes can go. So even with all the extra shit that's going to come with it being Bray Wyatt, you know when it gets time for them to be in the ring, they're going to fucking go. I think that's the difference. It's not so much the big man match for me. It's just I don't know how those styles clash. Now, that being said, with MVP being involved, shout out to MVP, moving our tickets down and shit for the Raw After Mania last year. I appreciate you, my guy. But with that being said, with him being back around and Bobby being back around and Omos being back around and Cedric and Shelton, I also wouldn't be shocked if we seen like the Hurt Business come back around. I thought that kind of got cut a little quick. I wouldn't be mad if you did that, have them reform, and at least that way there's like a connection between, the Brock match and the Bobby match and all that kind of stuff. I think that wouldn't be I don't think that would be a bad way to go either. But as far as main events, obviously Roman's match is going to be one of them. I still kind of stick by what I said. I kind of think that we need to see, the women's match highlighted. You being a fan of the older stuff too, bro. I mean, what'd you think of them bringing Lita back to be Becky's partner, and what'd you think of Trish coming back? Because the Trish part, I feel like she should have came out when when Bayley first interfered. But what do you feel with them coming back here on Raw last night?
I mean, I've seen a lot. I mean, it's crazy. You mentioned that. I was actually reading a couple articles saying like Lita winning the tag team titles is bad for business and whatnot. It's like another part-time flowing into the women's division, right? Lesnar, Goldberg, whatnot. But to be honest, man, it's like any other business. Those tag team champions in general, do we have this taste that we like? Yeah, I can't wait to be the women's tag team champion. And I think with Lita, her nostalgia and this figure in WWE, and especially the impact she's done in women's division, right? Or the Divas in her time, right? Divas era, women's era, whatever, right? Like she's an important figure in WWE or wrestling, however we want to define it, right?
She's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. However we want to define it, her being a champion, you're increasing this value, you're increasing this prestige that now you have. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just throwing a random name, right? That people now, instead of Sasha and the whole Naomi getting mad about whatever, right? How the division.
Speaking of that, Mercedes Moné being your New Japan champion shit.
So imagine now people wouldn't mind being tag team champions, representing and wanting to defend these titles. I mean, it's not a bad thing. I think that they're experimenting to see where it goes. It doesn't hurt not trying. What do they lose out of it? Nothing. You have a Hall of Famer that's a tag team champion with arguably one of the best figures of this modern era in Becky Lynch. Like,
no argument there.
Like, I was excited. Like, I wasn't mad about it. I'm excited to see where this goes. I mean, now it opens my imagination to be like, all right, what's another former women's champion, former Divas champion that could return and could team up with this generation's right wrestler and make a tag team? And wouldn't it be exciting? Like, I could think of Trish Stratus coming back and she teams up with, I don't know.
She came back to come make the save for Lita last night.
Yeah.
I mean, my thing is I kind of look at this as the flip side, right? Like, it's cool. I don't have a problem with Lita being the champion.
Yeah.
But I hope with somebody like her and Becky as champion, A, it brings more eyes over to the women's tag titles, and B, now you got to build some people for them to fight. Now you have to make some other teams so that there's a full division. Like, that's my hope out of this. Okay, now you've got the tag titles. Not that Damage Control wasn't credible, but they're not on the same star level as a Lita and a Becky Lynch. So that's why I'm saying now that you got the titles on somebody who is, a higher prestige. Now you got to build the division below them to do that. I mean, not that that shouldn't have already happened when you had a Bayley and Sasha as champion or Sasha and Naomi as champion. But that's what I want to see. Is I want to see that division be grown upon. That's kind of where my hope is for that coming out of it. I mean, look, at the very least, you brought up a good point before we went live, dude. Speaking of, the state of pro wrestling is good when it's entertaining on multiple platforms and people are watching in. Because here's some stats I want to rattle off to you guys that I didn't realize until I was doing my stuff for the show. Everybody wants to talk about how many tickets are sold for WrestleMania, what the ratings are, all those kind of things. Their live events since Cody has come back and the live events that Cody's on have been breaking records. And I don't mean like just, okay, they had a good house here, a good house there. They're smashing their live event records. And the last 3 premium live events being Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and I guess the one before that would have been Survivor Series. Each one of them has broken a record. Elimination Chamber has been the most watched pay-per-view for the one before WrestleMania in years. They said this is the most watched Royal Rumble that they've had in how many years. So the point I'm getting at is, I mean, you mentioned it before we went on live, like, the actual intrigue that's built towards people wanting to see this. Numbers don't lie. And when they're breaking records in live events, you're breaking records in people watching the shit. You're breaking records in YouTube and views on all platforms. I mean, look, bro, say what you want, say what you will. And my thing is too, don't get me wrong, I love the Sami Zayn thing. Again, I think the Bloodline storyline is like the best thing that they've had in years. But with that being said, I'm glad that the focus is on Cody headed into WrestleMania because I think that's the story. I think Cody can be the face for them. And if you're going to have somebody be able to take the belt off them, I'm not even saying Cody for sure wins. If someone's going to take the belt off of Roman, it needs to be somebody that you can put on all the trucks, and that's the face of that motherfucker.
Yeah.
With all the experience that he's had with AEW and everything else, I feel like Cody has become seasoned enough that if that is the way we're going to go, I think Cody would be the right person to do it. All I know is, like I said, the state of pro wrestling is good. And speaking of the state of pro wrestling, check out the state of pro wrestling when you're done here. I know you like interviews in pro wrestling. If you're checking us out, check out their links in the description. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. Check them out if you're in the Minnesota area. Anyways, last thing I wanted to get with you before we get out of here, bro. Yeah. So it's also been talked about Gervonta Davis and Ryan. So tell me, how are you feeling about this fight, dude? Ryan Garcia, Tank Davis. I feel like this is a banger. There's a lot of talk that Tank's got to handle some legal trouble after this fight's over. What do you think about this fight? I feel like this is one of the best fights that boxing can make right now. I still feel like Tank is going to keep his belt, but that being said, it's one of the more exciting fights that boxing has. And as you know, being somebody who covers the sport, boxing doesn't always do so good on delivering the fights that everybody wants to see. So with this one having a date and all those things, how are you feeling about this fight?
I mean, what was I saying? Until I see them both in the ring, I'll believe it. I mean, I'm excited. They made some progress, right? All the shit talking and whatnot, and one promoter saying this, like, the thing about boxing is there's so much bullshit going on, man. Like, you have one promoter wanting more things than the other promoter, this network. So the fact that the fight's getting done, besides all the fucking drama that's been going on, like, I'm glad it's being happened. I a lot of people come at me on Instagram. I always say, for me, that's the biggest fight that could be made right now. It's way bigger than Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. I think it's bigger than Joshua.
Wow, that's saying something.
Ryan. You got to understand, Ryan is like, what's the word? He's just very different from any other boxers. Like, he's the type of dude that brings the grandmas, your granddaughters, the young ones, and the usual demographics of boxing. Like, he just brings them all in the venues, right? Gervonta, he's a big household name in terms of the boxing community. He's very known, right, in this mainstream, Ryan Garcia's mainstream model, whatnot. So it's going to be a very great fight because you have two fighters that are quote unquote unproven, and they do need each other to eclipse to the next level. Even though Gervonta is a 3 division world champion, whatnot. Even though some can be debated, right? Like this whole regular WBA shenanigans and whatnot, right? And then Ryan, who's never been a world champion, but he's always been there. And Ryan also needs a big win to kind of
Solidify him.
solidify these haters. Like, oh, like he really does take this boxing serious. My biggest fear is that him not having a fight or even a tune-up fight to this Gervonta Davis, even though people are saying, oh, he's fought a couple southpaws, blah blah blah. But is that ring rust? Then you look at Gervonta, he just had a fight. He has the legal battles and whatnot. But I mean, it's like a pick 'em and choose 'em fight. I actually posted up on Instagram today that a lot of people wanted my perspective and who I'm putting my money on. I mean, it's just all about game plans. I feel like sometimes Ryan doesn't fight like the fighter that he should, right? Using his reach, being committed on the jab. That kind of scares me because I feel like sometimes he just wants to like get in there and mix it up. And he doesn't have the greatest chin in the world. So that scares me. And Tank, Tank is just that boy could fucking hit, man.
If Tank hits you, bro, he puts your fucking lights out.
Bro, I'm not even allowed to say, like, dude, I seen him knock a former heavyweight champion and a former cruiserweight champion at the Mayweather gym. Like, that dude's power is legit, bro. And like with Tank, I seen flaws in Tank. But Leo being the fucking not thinking, he's trying to go inside and be a machismo and mix it up with Tank. And that's where Tank is the most dangerous. Like, that's where he's most dangerous, in the pocket. So, I mean, I tell this to people, right? My money's with Tank. I'm sorry. My money is with Ryan, but then my head is with, like, I use my head though. I use my head, but it's hard, bro, because like you just don't know what to expect. So if you're betting, I don't think you could lose with either one. It just depends what kind of fight you take. But if I was to take a bet, I go with Ryan Garcia on the decision or Tank on a knockout. Those are the only two possibilities that I see. I told Ryan this one time, right? We was on the boat. 2020, Canelo was fighting in Florida against I think it was Garcia. I think I forgot the name. I'm sorry. I'm not remembering the name. Me and Brian were at the yacht party. Mind you, I invited him. We got, I got a little lit.
He definitely got lit.
So, he's like telling me, he's like, oh, I really wanted to fight. I was like, Ryan, you're lying to me, bro. Like, don't lie to me. Like, you're lying, you're dying. Ryan said, no, I wouldn't. So I said, all right, like, be honest with me right now in my face. You and Tank, who is winning? He said, he looked dead in my face, mind you. I'm so drunk. He's like, yo, G, I'll give you 10 racks. I'll knock him out by second. I said, bro, you're bugging. Like, I don't know what weed you on, or I was just, exaggerating. I don't know what drinks you're on, bro. Like, you're not knocking out Tank. And I told him straight in the face, I'm like, the only way you're winning this fight, you're using your distance and you're getting away from the power. I'm like, if you by 1 second try to get in that pocket, I was like, dude, I love you, bro, but you might get knocked out. And he said, gee, like, I'm being dead ass. Like, I'm like, Brian, now you're talking nonsense. Like, you're not gonna. I don't think you knock out Tank. But then again, I never seen Tank really get cracked. But I seen Ryan get dropped by Campbell.
Yeah. That's the thing, right? When you're
all
when
I'm
you're
saying is against Tank,
like
that's
that,
the worst strategy to me, is to bang it out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, when you're weighing evidence like that. But I've also seen Garcia, man. He throws some punches, man, so damn fucking quick in there. Like, I remember one of his last knockouts. It was legitimately, I was watching the fight. I didn't see what happened. I just seen the dude go down. And then they showed the replay, and I still barely seen what happened. And then they slowed down the replay, and I'm like, oh, yeah, he did land a fucking vicious hook in there. Oh, shit. Like, his hands are that quick. So, like, there is a chance for Ryan Garcia to knock him out. He possesses that level of power. But it's just, like you say, man, I feel like if you put yourself in that danger zone against somebody like Tank, who you have a size advantage over, that's where feel like you would be best implemented. It's not like he's not a skilled boxer. It's not like he's not able to go out there and outbox somebody from distance. I feel like that would be his best game plan.
But
If he wants to, if
yeah.
he wants to chase counters once in a while and then immediately get back out of the, pocket, fine. But I feel like if you're just wanting to chase it up, clinch here and there and get back into it, get dirty, that ain't the fight for him for sure.
Yeah, but he's got to fight. He's about it. I don't know about Ryan, man. Like, I mean, the one adversity with Campbell, like, yeah, he overcame that and everything. But I don't know, man. I feel like I take Tank to the streets. Like, I don't know. He's built different, dude. Like, if I take him to Detroit right now, I know Tank is gonna hold it down. You know, like that's just the type of dude he is. He's a good dude. Like when he's not surrounded with the wrong people, like he's such a nice dude. Like he means well. But then when he's hanging out with the wrong people, like he's just doing some dumb, stupid shit. Like I've seen it so many times, right? Ryan is just a kid still, you know, like he's learned a lot from the times I've been with him. I remember when I met him in New York, 17. Mind you, I took him to the ice skating ring I always think he was 21. When I tried to take him to a club, he's like, dude, I'm only 17. I was like, oh yeah, I'm taking you to like the ice skating ring, bro. That's what you deserve to be. So like, you know what I'm saying? Like it just depends who has the right state of mind, who has the right game plan. And like at the end of the day, who wants it more, dude? That's really what it is. Who really wants it more? I do want to go there actually. That's one. I think they're doing New York, they're doing Vegas, they're doing LA, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they might do the UK. So
hey man,
What, like a
that's
publicity
probably
tour?
one of the press conference shit.
promote it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm definitely in there, man.
That definitely would be a joint to get at, bro. I need to get in on one of these too, bro. Corey, before we get the fuck out of here, you know, we also saw some UFC action and we saw some Bellator action. I got to watch the Bellator fights. First of all, shout out to Amazov. You know, I don't know if any of you guys got to see the story of that leading into that. You know, he's the reigning Bellator world champion and he leaves while he's champion to go defend his country over there in Ukraine and is fighting on the front lines. And they got videos of this dude in the war against Russia. And then he comes back off a 3-year layoff and just put in fucking work on Logan Storley, which if you guys have been following the show, we just had Mitch McKee fresh off his win for LFA, you know, a Minnesota Gopher standout and was brought into MMA by Logan Storley. And dude, I mean, don't get me wrong. I knew what Amosov was about, but dude, he went in there and fucking put it on. He fucking put it on against Storley, and Storley is no soft contender. You know, shout out to him.
It just looked like Logan Storley had nothing for him, man. And I had watched the Big John Josh Thompson podcast, and they had talked about it, talking to him after the fight, and he said he ate some of those leg kicks early, and Storley said his leg was just dead on him, man. He couldn't do anything. He was just in there taking shots, and he felt like he couldn't defend himself, but it was a world title shot, so he couldn't, give up on himself in there. And I feel like that's what we essentially seen, was somebody that was just there but wasn't able to really implement his skills whatsoever. And shout out Amosov for being able to do that. I mean, that wasn't based on an injury, that was based on damage dealt. So, that is what it is. That was really I missed the main card. I did go back.
There was also the nasty knockout on Peter Queally. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. Peter Queally had his fight. He got knocked out, and now his opponent is going to be the next one up for Pitbull, depending upon what he says, because they're talking about Pitbull might go down and try to fight for the 135 title as well. So there was a lot of good stuff out of that Bellator card. UFC has been having a lot of problems with their main events. I'm not mad. I won my parlay real quick on that fight. So maybe we need to get back to dropping our parlays because it was nice to win a little bit of extra money. But that being said, the main event for the UFC, which was the final leg of my parlay, didn't get to happen because Krylov got sick before the fight. So what are your thoughts on the UFC quickly, Corey?
Definitely unfortunate circumstances. I know they already rebooked the match, if I'm not mistaken. It's really quickly coming up. If I'm not mistaken, they rebooked it for March 11th. I could be wrong on that, but so quick turnaround for both the guys. Hopefully, at least Ryan Spann got a little bit of something from making weight and having to sit in the back, not knowing that he wasn't going to fight that night. But either way, I like the matchup. I didn't like its placement as a main event. What it got replaced by, I mean, granted, Brendan Allen looked he looked like incredibly impressive against somebody who was supposed to be one of them boogeymen of the division, and Andre Muniz, somebody who went out there and snapped Jacare's arm just like a year ago.
You ain't
I mean,
kidding, dude. And to
so,
do that
like, he
against
was one of
Jacare,
those
I don't give a
guys-
shit if it's MMA or jiu-jitsu. Jacare is widely considered one of the best guys jiu-jitsu wise in MMA history. So just
to be
saying.
able to do that, he was considered one of those boogeymen at 170, and for Brendan Allen to basically go in there and shut him down from every facet of the game, and have that elevated platform being the newly minted main event, I feel like that does nothing but really give him a solid push towards something better towards the top. I really liked that fight for him, but the card itself, man, that was lacking big time, man. And I mean, you see it sometimes from the UFC where, like you said, Kyle, they've had, you know, a bit of a string of unfortunate things happening with main events, with like the Derek Lewis one, and they've had quite a few injuries pop up at the last moment and stuff like that. But what it really shows me is, man, I miss the days where they used to stack these cards a little bit better, and you could have a actual name value co-main event where if something like that does happen, it's like, hey, all of a sudden it's two guys that people actually still know, and not just like unranked Brendan Allen and number 11 or some shit Muniz. Like, I get it, but at the same time, like, you guys got to do better. You're the top fighting organization in the world when it comes to MMA, and you guys got to do better than that. Real quick though, I don't know if you had any other thoughts on the card, Kyle, but
Well, no, I was just gonna say, I mean, to your point with what you were saying about the next card, you know, AB, before I let you get out of here, I'm gonna go grab something real quick. But this weekend, we've got the return of John Jones at fucking heavyweight against Ciryl Gane. You know, if he wins this, we're already hearing talks of him and Stipe. But what are your thoughts on the return of John Jones? What do you think this fight means? And both of you guys, give me a little bit of a thought on what you guys think with John Jones. And anybody who's watching, feel free to throw in your thoughts in the comments.
I mean, he's good for the sport. You know, he brings eyeballs to the sport. I'm very optimistic to see what he brings. You know, an opponent that, you know, someone like that opponent has nothing to lose and probably will do anything to win that fight. So imagine if he beats John Jones, like, where does he go? You know, so I'm excited. You know, and then I'm pretty sure if he wins, you know, he's gonna get a big fight, like you just mentioned. And you know, and then John Jones is a good person too. He trained with he's with Holly Holm. I remember in New Mexico with Carlissa Shields. Actually, he's very cool, man. Like, I wish him nothing but the best. And I hope to see him in a boxing ring too, man. I don't know, man. I want to see him in a boxing ring, bro.
yeah, I feel like of all the bigger guys, he could, before his transition to heavyweight, at least he could have done decent. I don't know now. The size thing might slow him down a little bit in a boxing environment. I feel like, you know, being that he is naturally a smaller guy. But to progress towards the fight, I love the fight. To your point, like you were saying, for Ciryl Gane, what an opportunity, man. I mean, there isn't much of a bigger platform. You're now fighting again for the heavyweight title of the world, arguably against the greatest that there ever has been in our sport, and John Jones, making his move up to 265. He's looking like he's coming in at about 250-ish, 260. So he's definitely taking advantage of the weight gain and stuff like that, and he's looking in shape for his debut at heavyweight. I'm definitely excited in that regard.
I wanted to actually quickly, I know Kyle doing something, but I had a question for you. If John Jones loses, is that one of the biggest upset in UFC history?
Depending on the circumstance, it really is depending on the circumstance, right? Like, if he goes in there and gets outclassed for a multitude of rounds or something like that, yeah. If a heavyweight goes in there and knocks out John Jones, who used to fight at 205 in the first or second round just because he landed a shot, no, I don't think that's the case. I think for John Jones, especially seeing how Francis Ngannou was able to out-wrestle Ciryl Gane, I feel like this should be the type of fight where John Jones should be able to take advantage of it as long as he's able to get a hold of the bigger man and still take him down. That's the real fight to me. Is he able to implement his wrestling? Does he use his footwork to avoid the big shots like we were saying? Ciryl Gane's not necessarily one of those guys that's known for being one punch and all of a sudden they're out. He usually piles it on to people and then throws that bomb, so he definitely could. They definitely put in a guy that could be John Jones. It's not like it's a given or anything like that. I just feel like the wrestling advantage in this one, man, it's such a big thing. Okay. And that really to me is the fight is whether or not John Jones implements his wrestling, and if he does, how successful is he with it?
All right, let me chime in real quick. So to answer both of your questions, number one, no, I don't think it would be the biggest upset in UFC history because Ciryl Gane has already proven that outside of a Francis Ngannou and, a Stipe Miocic, who's always looming with him being arguably the greatest heavyweight in UFC history, I think Ciryl Gane's proved that he should be in there. Now, if John Jones wins this fight and wins the UFC heavyweight title, I think there's a lot of argument to being able for John to be able to say without a shadow of a doubt, especially now with the new developments in the UFC, like in the USADA drug testing, because it's also come out now that anything under 100 picograms, they're not considering that a pop. So now that would also mean that John Jones never popped for steroids. Granted, the rules were different at the time. I think the storm of all of those, if he wins this fight, because this fight's for the heavyweight title, because now that Francis Ngannou isn't with the UFC, this is for the title. John Jones wins this fight and wins the heavyweight title. I mean, it's going to be hard not to say that guy's not the greatest of all time. If not the greatest of all time, I mean, he's got to be in the conversation, if nothing else. As far as the fight itself.
When you run through the list of legends, Kyle, not to interrupt, but when you run through the list of legends he was beaten early on in his career and being that young while he was doing it, he's got to take that spot, especially like you said, with the now clearing of the whole drug test thing and stuff like that. I mean, continue your point, but I just feel like if he does get this done, he takes that spot, in my opinion, at least.
I think it's going to be hard for him not to. As far as the fight goes, the big thing for me, the big questions coming into this fight are, how does John Jones carry the weight at heavyweight? We've seen him train. Anybody can look good when you get all muscled up. You're 250 pounds of all muscle and all that shit. Of course, he looks good. Let's see how he holds that weight in the fight. Let's see how dynamic he's able to be. Is he able to throw the dynamic strikes and the crazy kicks and be able to mix everything together so flawlessly and seamlessly? Because let's also not forget, John Jones is not only coming back off a long layoff, he's coming off of probably what's arguably two of his worst performances of his career. When you talk about the fight against Dominic Reyes, and he had
Thiago Santos.
That's it. Yeah, I couldn't spit out the other name. Both of those fights were not John Jones' best performances. But again, he's had a lot of time off. He seems a lot more clear-headed. He seems ready to go. I think John Jones gets the dub in this fight. But that being said, I think it's going to be a lot harder of a fight than most people are going to say. That being said, what do you guys think about Stipe pretty much from what they're saying being like the next guy in line to get a title shot? A lot of people are saying that he's just skipping the line, but again, I've said this for a while. Okay, you're skipping the line. What are you going to do? Have Stipe fight Gane? I mean, Gane's about to fight for the title. Stipe lost to Ngannou. He's not going to be able to get that fight back with Ngannou. And if we're talking about resumes and being somebody that should be in that prestige, you cannot talk about UFC heavyweights for the last 15 years and not say that if Stipe isn't your favorite heavyweight, he's got to be top 2 or 3, and not favorite. I should say best heavyweight is what I mean, because everybody can have a different favorite. But if you're looking at things objectively, to not put Stipe as arguably the greatest heavyweight of all time, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. So with that being said, at least as far as the UFC goes, with that being said, it makes for an interesting fight. I don't have a problem with him jumping the line because here's the thing. Yes, there's a bunch of young killers out of there, but I feel like until Stipe is completely out of the picture, regardless of whether John Jones wins or Cyril Gane wins, I think that makes it so that they're always going to have that shadow of Stipe behind them. So in my opinion, I don't have a problem with it being Stipe because in my mind, he ultimately would be next up. So I don't know. All I know is I'm just really looking forward to having them fights come up, especially the co-main should be good too with Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. I mean, all in all, dude, it's going to be a banger of a card. And we've got AEW Revolution this weekend as well on Sunday. It's a whole lot of shit going on in one weekend, which is all the more reason y'all got to hit the subscribe button because you never know what we've got coming. Plus, you got Astronomicon that's coming down the pike and all these things. We got a lot going on this weekend. But, AB, man, let them know where the fuck to find you, what you've got cooking, and all that good shit over there in New York.
Yeah, no. First things first, man. I want to thank both of you, man, for reaching out to me. Actually, man, I ain't gonna lie to you, man. It's been a while, man, doing this, man. I've been to be honest, isolated in general, man, and it's good to have that passion again, So I thank you guys for real from the bottom of my heart. Everybody can follow me on Instagram. That's where I'll be posting as of late. It's ABBOXINGN, and and right now in New York, man, I've been doing a lot of ventures. I've been crossing paths in NBA, basketball, pro leagues in Europe, Mexico, Russia. May 20th, I actually have a big event in New York. We're bringing like at least 15, 16 different states in one tournament. I think it's like $20,000. I'm actually also trying to do a celebrity game of all the contacts I have with NBA stars, WWE stars, boxing stars. And then also I have one of my people that works with us. She just became a manager. So we're slowly but surely trying to have our own roster of fighters in the boxing, trying to make noise. I have another person also just enter the PR world. So, I mean, I think we was kind of experimenting with the media and trying to figure out what the puzzles of how does this work? How does that work? Just like you guys, right? When you guys started, you were trying to figure things out, right? So right now we're ready. We also have a couple investors and hopefully maybe in year two, launch our first show, our first promotion in New York or wherever it makes sense in the market. So yeah, that's some of the things we're cooking right now, man. Hopefully we make it happen. We definitely have you guys come out, since all the support you guys do for us, man. Love to have you guys out there too, man, for the promotion that we launched.
Hell yeah, man. I'm always down for a vacation. We're counting down the days to WrestleMania, counting down the days till I get on the plane, go link up with Mega Ran and take my ass out to LA and get away from this cold-ass Michigan weather. With that being said, man, we've talked about a lot of good stuff. Shout out to the sponsors one more time. Michigan's Finest. Get yourself right with Michigan's Finest. Use the code KO3MF. Get you 10% off your order. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. Get your taxes together with G3 Payroll. And the State of Pro Wrestling, like we said, is good. So check out the State of Pro Wrestling with all the links in that description. But with that being said, I mean, dude, we talk about all these things in the fight world. Hot damn, shout out to our guy Kenny Cross. Conor McGregor fucked him out of the Ultimate Fighter, and he's already signed to fight in Hawaii for Bellator. So fuck yeah, shout out to Kenny Cross. And with that being said, Lights Out's back in the building. They're giving me another motherfucking microphone. Shout out to everybody that was at Hype Athletics in Wayne, Michigan. That bitch was packed. Shout out to Adrian Harjabij getting him another world title. And guess what? If you guys didn't get to check it out, go check it out. Spectation Sports. You can hear me call the greatest nut shot in the world. Somebody didn't get their ass kicked this time, but I did a lot of flapping my gums. So until next time, in the in-between time, make sure you hit that motherfucking subscribe button. Peace.